What up, Pokenet? In this video, we're going to be taking a look into Dragapult Blaziken EX deck. This is what my son's playing right now in tournaments, and just won a league challenge this last weekend. I think this deck is really strong post-rotation to start with, and I think it gets even better once we get special red card out in Chaos Rising. It's been just killing it in Japan right now. It's really successful. I think it's the best way to play Dragapult right now. And so we'll take a look and see what the build is. We do have a few things we changed up because it's how Parker likes to play. So we'll kind of look through those and see what we have going. But this is our take on the best way to play Dragapult right now, which is going to be Dragapult Blaziken at the moment, right? So we have two Dragapult EX. Again, a lot of these are running 3, but I think with Blaziken, 2's the way to go, right? We just don't have quite enough space for all the Pokemon. So we're starting off with 2 Dragapult EX. Then we're running 3 Drakloaks. So again, I know in a lot of other Dragapult decks, we're running a 4-4 line, 4-4-3 or 4-4-2. And for this, we have 3 Drakloaks. Again, we don't have the bench space to have four Drakloaks out there anyways. So so we got 3 Drakloaks. Again, that's our main draw engine. And then we have 4 Dreepy. Again, part of this is just to help us get them into play. But again, we don't necessarily need to ever put 4 Dreepy in, right? I think it's just to make sure we have enough of them to get started. So we're running a 4-3-2 line with Dragapult with that. So that's what we got going for our main attackers, right? Then we have 2 of the Blaziken EX. This becomes our secondary attacker, especially with a lot of grass decks out there. Especially Parker plays at juniors, so we see a decent amount of grass decks right now. A lot of kids like playing Mega Venusaur. You see a lot of Ogre Pawns out there too for some draw support. So I think at any division, Blaziken can get some good knockouts because we just got so many grass Pokemon sitting out there right now too. So so then we got 2 Blaziken. We only got 1 Combusken. Relatively, we're going to be trying to rare candy into Blaziken. So that's why we only have 1 of these. It could come in handy, right? If somebody puts in the tree, right? It can help us out for sure. And then we're running 2 Torchic. Realistically, at times, 2's the most we're ever going to need. I mean, I think 1's more than enough. But if we are playing a grass deck, you probably want to start off both Torchic, so that way we have more fire attackers going within that matchup. Otherwise, we're just wanting to attack with Dragapult for the most part, right? One thing we changed up within this deck compared to a lot of others is we're still running 2 Budews. I think it's so important to slow down our opponent. So double Budew, I think, is important within any of these Dragapult decks. My buddy the other day only had 1 in his deck and prized it, and it might have been the reason he lost. He just couldn't get things going, and I think that's why we need 2 of these Budews. They're just too important to get Budew out and start Budewing early because we gotta slow our opponent down for sure. And then we're also running 2 Munkidoris. I think this is one thing we got to get figured out a little bit better within our gameplay is using the monkey, using it correctly, spreading damage around, and monkey's the best way to do that. So we got 2 Munkidoris within this deck list. Then we're at 1 Psyduck. Right, so because we may run into Dragapult with Dusknoir, this is what's going to help protect us. So we're running 1 Psyduck, and we're running 1 Meowth EX. I also have seen this with 2 Meowths. I mean, because it's such a liability, I think it's hard to be running two, but I have seen the same exact deck with two Meowths, but you know, we're just running one within this deck. And then we've got one Lillie's Clefairy EX. So I was asked pretty often why this was included in here within the short video. So a lot of people were wondering what we're doing with the Lillies in this deck. So again, because we have great energy acceleration with Blaziken, we can get this set up almost every in one turn all the time late in the game, and that's when we want to be using it. So this is going to help us knock out in mirror matches Dragapults. It's also going to help us if we got a Mega Lucario matchup. You know, if we see Raging Bolts, this is going to be the card that can win us that matchup. So we got one Lillie's Clefairy EX. And then our last Pokemon is the Fezandipiti, right? I mean, this is in almost every deck right now. The draw power from Fezandipiti is so huge. So that's what we got going for our Pokemon, right? So realistically, you know, it's you know, pretty clean with Dragapult. I mean, that's our main attacker, I think, in most every matchup. But we also have Blaziken at times if we need to. You know, a couple things we've changed within there is there's no Latias in this deck. We just don't have the bench space for Latias, so that's something we got to be. We know we got to play this a little bit different. But the other part is we don't mind. We don't mind having energy in the discard pile because we're going to use it with Blaziken. So if we need to attach and retreat, it doesn't hurt us as much within this matchup. So again, we don't mind. That doesn't bother us at all with this deck. Okay, then we're running 4 of what I think is the strongest supporter card in the game right now, which is 4 Lillie's Determination, right? So what a strong card, best draw support we have right now in Pokemon, and it's probably going to stay that way for a while. So we're running 4 Lillie's Determination. We got lucky at our last tournament. Parker was able to find one of his chase cards from Ascending Heroes, which is pretty crazy. He loves this card, and so we got 3 get over here boss's orders, and he loves this artwork. So luckily we got this included into his deck. So we got 3 boss's orders. Again, we often need to get certain things in the active to take KOs, and so we definitely need to have ways to switch Pokemon in and out of the active, our opponent's Pokemon. And then 2 Dawn, right? We need to get going. We need to get the Pokemon we need. Dawn allows us to grab a basic stage 1 and a stage 2, and that really helps helps us be a little more consistent within this deck. So that's why I'm running 2 Dawns. I think 1 is pretty usual, and 2's common. But I think we prefer 2. And then we're running 1 Judge. Part of this is because one of my son's best friends who he plays with a lot runs Alakazam, and again, without special red card yet, we need a way to get their hand size down, and so Judge is the way to do that. Because we have decent draw support with with our Drakloaks, it also doesn't hurt us as much. So if we judge somebody and we still have Drakloaks, we're able to kind of get our hand size back up anyways. So, and then we run 1 Crispin, and this is because we sometimes need to get energy in play. Because our energy acceleration is from our discard pile, we need the Crispin to get it onto the board, so then we can also discard it or whatever if they take a KO, it's in the discard pile then, right? So we're running 1 Crispin to help us early game to get energy going and everything. So that does it for our supporters. Then we're running 4 Ultra Ball. So again, we want to get energy in the discard pile, so this helps us with that. We also need to get all of our evolution Pokemon or even a basic at times, so this is the best way to do that. and that accomplishes more than just one thing at a time, having those Ultra Balls. And then again, I mean, this has been one of the best cards in the game since it came out, and that's running 4 Buddy-Buddy Poffins. Again, because all of our starter Pokemon are 70 HP or lower. This also helps us get Budew out and going too early. So we need Buddy-Buddy Poffins, especially early on, to get going within our matchups. So we're running 4 of those. And then this is one too that I think you could change. We're running 3 of the Pokepads, so that's up to you. I think 4 isn't bad, right? I think realistically, because we're running the 2 Dawns, we don't have to have 4 of the Pokepads. So you get to make that decision on your own. I don't mind when we only have to run 3 because that gives me 1 more to put in another deck, right? Because getting a hold of those right now is still pretty tough. All right, then I've seen this number be very different. We're running 2 rare candies. I have occasionally seen 3. I've also seen several with 1, which I think is pretty thin. So we're running 2 rare candies. I mean, realistically, Parker likes rare candying pretty quickly into Blaziken and or Dragapult at times. So I think 3 is not the worst thing in the world, but rarely needed. I think because we're slowing our opponents down with Budews, we'll be okay with just 2 of them. Then we got 2 Night Stretcher, right? Our best way of getting anything out of the discard, well, not anything, getting Pokemon or basic energy out of the discard pile. So we're running 2 Night Stretchers. We have 1 Tool Scraper, and I think this has been big if we start seeing like Hero's Cape or Maximum Belt more often. But realistically, there's times we just need to get a tool off of our opponent's Pokemon. And so this is the way we're going to do it. So we have 1 Tool Scraper. I think that one can go away if we feel like we need something else, right? So if we decide we want to go with another rare candy, this might be the first card we take out with that Tool Scraper. Especially with Parker playing this at juniors, I don't know how often he's going to need that. So yeah, we'll just kind of see how that works out for him. Okay, then we're running, oh, my bad. We're only running 1 Risky Ruins. So because we have the Munkidoris, because so many Pokemon are sitting at 70 or 80 with our basic lower state, like before of evolution, are sitting at 70 or 80, Risky Ruins makes a massive difference, and then also helps us get to get those 210 Ogerpons, 210 Latias, anything at 210, we're now hitting them down to 190, so we get an easy KO. And so Risky Ruins helps us out in so many different ways. And then again, with Munkidori, if it's on our own, we're able to throw it back across the board. And then this is where, again, you can change this out if you need to. We're running 1 Jamming Tower. Again, there are a lot of pretty good tools out there right now, and so this helps us avoid those getting any use. You could switch that out depending on matchups, right? So Team Rocket's Watchtower is not a bad one to switch it out with. You could also switch it with another Risky Ruins. I've seen it both ways. I think that's really up to what you're seeing at your tournaments and what you feel is going to be the best inclusion. I think you could switch that out really easily. For our A-spec, we're running Unfair Stamp. I mean, again, with Ionos being gone, this thing is so huge. I do think once we get a special red card, like we've talked about multiple times, once special red card gets here, we may be able to switch this out. But right now, this is what we got. We don't necessarily need the Neo Upper Energy because we have the energy acceleration with Blaziken. Neo Upper isn't necessary in this deck, so that's why we went with Unfair Stamp. Again, we've also seen a decent amount of Alakazam, especially at the junior level, and so this helps us in that matchup a little bit more. All right, then for energies, we're running 3 Fire Energy. Luckily, we got some gold ones. Those are some of my favorite things, right? I actually love buying or trading for, I should say, gold energies because we can play them in decks for a long time. So this was actually a card I played all of these in Regidrago, and now they've made their way into other decks. So part of why I like trading for and having gold energies because we play them in a lot of different decks. And then we're running 3 of the Psychic Energy. Again, we don't need a huge number, but we need more than we used to run, right? So, Dragapult pre-rotation, I don't think ever had a 3/3 lineup with energies, right? I mean, maybe, but one of the things we need more of now is some energies because we don't have the Neo Upper energy. And then 2 Dark Energy. Again, we got 2 Munkidori, so we need 2 Dark Energy to have them do what they need to. But this also can be our second energy to Blaziken if we got to use it as our second attacker. So so this is what we're looking at for our Dragapult Blaziken deck right now. Again, you can certainly make a decent amount of changes to this to how your gameplay works and what looks best for you. But man, this has been really strong. Again, the first tournament we went to, this took the championship, and we go to a League Cup coming up here this week too, and we're hoping we can get another win out of this same deck. As we get closer into to LA regionals, we'll be taking an even closer look into this deck. We'll see if there's different things we need to tweak and change. But this has been a great deck right now, and we think it's fun to play too. So again, if you haven't already, please go subscribe. Smash the like button, especially if you made it this far into the video, and then leave a comment. Let me know, is there another deck you want to see us do a profile on? And then also let us know, what's your favorite deck right now? What are you playing? And what are you liking here post rotation? So, and as always, have a Poketastic day.